And in our market, we've got about 56 or 57 home builders in that market of 100,000 people. So the market for the high-end custom home builder has constantly shrunk over the past few years. The millennial crowd doesn't want the 600,000, the 750,000, the $1 billion home. They're looking for affordability, quality, but affordability. So it's taken
weapon is there. But the other part you have is you have the agility, being the size that you are. You have the cost effectiveness because you are more hands-on. A lot of times when you're looking at commercial cost of things, it can run a whole lot more than what we seem to be able to build for. So if you can build them small and attainable, this is a triplex piece that we did out at Badger Ranch. And so we're able to develop our own land, get our development fees off of that, do our construction, get our construction fees off of that. It's about 50-50 rental and sold units because we condominiumized it, so it allowed us to pay off a lot of debt by selling off the units we did, keep the ones that we have with relatively low debt, keep them leased out and get some rental income, some property management fees. And again, it creates a nice exit strategy somewhere down the road if we want to sell those off or if we want to just keep these in the long-term portfolio. Oops, wrong way. One of the things you've done pretty cool is kind of what we call specialty uses. Tell us a little bit about some of those lodges and stuff that you built out in San Angelo.
Yeah, we've built a number of these lodges. They're extremely specialized. They're extremely large. And as I spoke earlier about the wholesale timber relationship that I have with the sawmill, it enabled me to compete for this kind of product. And in fact, nobody could compete with me because of the cost that we were paying for heavy timber in San Angelo, Texas. And these are massive structures. I really love doing this kind of stuff. It's kind of my forte is the bigger, higher end stuff. So I really enjoyed these. And we were able to really do well on these projects because of some of those buying relationships that we talked about earlier.
Give us an idea about how large a lodge might be, how many square feet?
12 to 15,000 square feet is pretty much the average of the ones that we've built in West Texas.
And that led what you were talking about is your strategic partnerships that you've been able to incur through that. You've got a pretty cool one going up in the southern part of Colorado where you've found some nice folks there to be able to have a good source of timber.
Yes.
With the National Forest.
Yes, that is correct. And I encourage these people. They were a small family-owned sawmill. They were dependent on buying their timber, their logs from wholesalers, log wholesalers, and I met with them and got them involved with the Forestry Service in both southern Colorado and northern New Mexico to where they could actually go and buy dead standing timber on their own. Of course, that helped me immensely. It dropped the cost of dimensional timber by about 35% because they were harvesting the timber and then milling the timber. So you add that on top of already the savings because of the volume purchase. We buy timber probably at the best price of anybody in the country.
Well, and that's also evolved into another little piece that came off of that, talking about like panelized systems. Not only can they harvest it and fell it, they can cut it up and then create their own panels.
That is correct, and that was one of our expansions into diversity. Is we started having this sawmill panelize these small buildings for hunting ranches, game ranches, for guest cottages for people to stay in. They're panelized. They come on a trailer. You take them off the trailer and you screw them together. Everything's done. They're foam insulated when you put them up. So they're a quick build. They definitely address a need. More and more man camps, that sort of thing for the oil field industry. These are very popular in the oil field. So it created, and a lot of this product is a result of the cutoff from the heavy timber.
And these pictures really don't do them justice. These are pre-completion. It's not totally finished out. Whenever I come visit Mike and Connie, they have a casita in their own house, and they put me up in it, and it is as nice as the hotel we're in here. They do a great job with what it is. It goes up very quick. It's a very positive system. It's beautiful when it's said and done with all the timber. And also, cost effective. You've been able to use them on your
Yes.
hunting lodges,
Yes. Yes.
areas around, and they are very flexible. Historics are one of the areas that we're kind of passionate about, or I'm kind of passionate about. That was my first job out of college, was the Texas Historic Commission. And so we like this. Every one of you have a town that has a lot of this, blighted areas in town, like the bottom left picture here. So this is a piece that Mike's doing in San Angelo, where you've been able to acquire one in an area that was kind of needing some help, and the city was wanting you to do something there, right?
Yes, it was a building that hadn't been occupied in approximately 25 years. It had deteriorated. It was in really bad shape, and we purchased the building for a very, very low cost, and eventually sold that property for the intent. And you can see the rendition of the finished product. We just started construction on it, and this particular building is going to be an art museum.
Very cool.
So it'll be a real nice addition to historic downtown San Angelo, which is one of the foremost historic downtowns in the state.
It's a beautiful district, and it really has a lot of opportunity there. There's a strong demand, and really it has a chance of these becoming very transformative for the entire town. This is a piece that Mike and I are doing together. It's the old Roosevelt Hotel, so it's a mid-late 1920s steel frame structure. It was a grand old hotel in its day. It became a flop house in the 80s and 90s, rent by the hour sort of place. And it was really rough. It sat vacant, and transients were living in there for a number of years. And this is an area, but it's 2 blocks from the hospital, major regional hospital there.
1 block from City Hall.
1 block from City Hall. This is, we have Fixer Upper in Waco. This is taking it to a whole different level of what we're planning on doing here. So this is going to be a 19-unit loft conversion, using a plus commercial storefronts. Our plan is on this, doing it as a 5-year hold to fully maximize historic tax credits, condominiumize it, and sell it. Now here's the before picture here. So on Fixer Upper, this is what you do with the big reveal. Starting out here with what it was before. I described it to Mike when we walked through. It's like walking through the Titanic sitting on the bottom of the ocean. Everything was hanging off the ceiling. There was garbage everywhere. It was in rough shape. And so Mike and his crews have done an excellent job of getting it back down to studs. These historics are probably readily available in your town. They probably scare most people off from them because they're in rough condition, and somewhat rightly so. They take a lot of work. There's a lot of surprises you come into it. But they really offer an opportunity to change the fabric inside your community here. Sorry, I flipped my pages here. Now, it's necessary to have your community to have buy-in onto this. And you can encourage that as builders and developers and such, talking with your city and all. Some of the necessary incentives and creative kind of financial strategies that you want to incorporate in here. We've been able to benefit from, in San Angelo it's called TIERS grants, in Waco it's called TIF grants, tax increment financing. In Waco you can receive back 15 to 20% in the form of a grant, so you don't have to repay it. You're able to utilize that as equity. It allows you to offset a lot of the challenges that you have, or offset a lot of the risk that you have when you're undertaking this. On this particular project, we're also using historic tax credits. Those are really pretty cool out there. So you can get 20% federal tax credits plus 25% state tax credits, which are monetizable, meaning you can sell off the state credits to somebody. They'll pay you about 92 cents on the dollar for them. Combined, about 45% of total cost receiving in the form of tax credits, which are able to be monetized and sold and utilized. And that really, again, helps make the return in your numbers much better, really pumps it up. In Waco downtown, we're fortunate to have an opportunity zone. This is something that came out of the new tax law. If you need to look and see what you have in your own hometown, where your opportunity zones are. It's a really neat new incentive that's out there. It's much like a 1031 exchange. You can bring your money in, you can defer your tax gain on that for up to another 7 years. You reduce it by about 15%. If you leave it in there that full 7 years, you'll reduce the normal gain you'd pay. You'd reduce that down, plus you'd defer it for a while. If you keep it in 10 years, the basis of your new investment, basically anything that you're spending on that, you will have an adjusted basis after the 10-year period of time if you hold it that long. So you wouldn't have any tax gain on the gain that you would have during that point in time. So it's a good way to be able to have some very favorable tax benefits of that. Plays very well with equity investors that you might want to have involved in your piece. And lastly, I'll mention on here something that I haven't fully gone into before, but we're looking into is PACE financing. With all that we do in custom homes, all that we know about energy efficiency and environmental improvements, renewable energy, that sort of thing, we can utilize those on these, and we can qualify for PACE financing. It allows us to get a loan that's going to be assessed on the property tax bill and paid back over a 5 to 20 year period of time. And so that's a very neat program. And lastly, on these two, with all these different things, there are bridge loans available out there, so you can go to somebody else and get a loan and help you bridge this to help you go ahead and get started on it. So we see that as a really neat piece. Next up, one of the projects Mike and I are working on is our downtown Waco on the town square. We have the old Bank of America building. It's been a bank since the 1880s. It's been through all the alphabet soup generations all the way up. NCNB, BOA, all the M-Bank and all those sort of things. They moved out and allowed us to take this and reposition it. Now they had these 3 buildings plus a half a city block across the street on the town square. They had been in various locations in there. If you can imagine a building that's been around for 120, 140 years, it's kind of been bastardized over the years. Part of it was a theater as well, back as the old Strand Theater, and so it was 3 stories tall but only had 1 floor in it. And so we're going back in, remodeling this, we're adding floors in here, we're increasing the square footage from about 25,000 to about 50,000 usable square feet in there, converting it over into Class A office space plus co-working spaces. We see this as a long-term hold, again, for our retirement plan. We've received a nice TIF grant on this, and so we're hoping to see this one really start taking bloom this over the next few months. And then across the street from it, this is kind of the cherry on top, is we have a half city block that on this rendition, if you look through the center of that little drawing, there is our Capitol, or our courthouse right across there, right there on the town square. This was cleared out courtesy of a historic tornado that came through in the 50s and knocked down quite a bit of the buildings in downtown Waco. And so this town square is sitting here empty. It's a parking lot, not really creating much revenue at all. And so we're going to take this, utilize TIF grants, go with underground parking, create about 450 parking spaces for our city and for our courthouse. Create a city plaza much like Sundance Square here in Fort Worth, and go with a mixed-use development using different buildings, being hotels, residential condos, and Class A office space with restaurants, retail on the first floor. So all this we're saying is we want you to relook at your business and kind of look at what's my primary income streams and what can my secondary income streams be off of my businesses. Start early. I see a lot of young faces in here. Start early doing this. Start collecting your portfolios and start making ways to be able to start building up for down the road, because it gets here awfully fast.
It does indeed.
Secondly, get your business in order. Make sure it's fine-tuned and running the right way, because you don't want to get diverse and spread out and not do what you do well first, because that's the main source of revenue. But once you get those two things kind of going, there's all the basic things when you're talking about making yours run right. Make sure you're not giving away developer profit when you're doing these developments. This takes a lot of your time. Be sure to charge for that when you're doing developments, when you're spending time on that. Make sure you're getting paid for your construction management fees. Everybody wants to start saying, well, you need to put in a lot of sweat equity. Yeah, you do. You're sweating a lot already. Don't feel like you need to do everything for free out there. You need to be able to get paid, and that has a real value in it. And even if you do put it into sweat equity, make sure that it's valued on your pro forma so that your bank's giving you full credit on that and using that as your equity, part of your contribution as well. Don't just throw it away. I see too many people do that too often. Don't forget to include all your personnel, your supervisors, your overhead, your accounting, your administrative fees, all those sort of things in there. Anticipate what your warranty costs are going to be. Put that in there as well. Make sure you're planning for that. And then charge your builder profit on top of everything else. These are just those sort of tips that you're going to get from, if you join a 20 club, how people will help you make your business run a lot better and a lot more profitably. And then finally, plan for your tax consequences. Make sure that you're ahead of that and you're thinking of that, because that'll come down the road. But your other secondary lines of income that you'll have coming off of all that, after we've talked about development fees and construction management fees, you should be getting more rental income. You'll be able to get property management fees for managing your own places. Most people, if you hire a third party, are going to be in the 5-6% range, something along that line. So be sure that you're charging yourself for that, even though you own it, because that's part of the cost. You'll start seeing, if you have your own brokerage, charge yourself your brokerage fees on them, as well as your developer fees. Typically, you're seeing developers charging in the 10% range on their own projects. And then I'd mentioned early on Lynn Swadley. He's a great, like I said, Texan that's up in UP. But what really kind of brought to home to me what he has done over his career, he's built houses. He's developed the neighborhoods and built the houses in the neighborhoods. He's developed commercial developments and built the buildings and managed and owned it. He develops the apartments and builds it and manages it and owns it. He develops his retirement communities. Again, you're starting to see the same thing in there. He's gone from cradle to grave. Now he's developed senior housing, unassisted that he started out with, then assisted living, part of his overall neighborhood plan, where you can go and live here for the rest of your life and just kind of evaluate through. He's all the way up to Alzheimer's care with all the different types of housing he's done. All the time, getting his construction fees, his development fees, his management fees during this point in time. And P.S., his company's broker all these as well. So he's kind of my personal hero on being able to do some of this thing. Mike?
We've all had them. We've all had people like that in their life.
Yep.
No doubt. One of the things that I can add to that is our environment, our industry's changing. If you want to remain in the industry, and there's few exceptions, there's no question. There are custom home builders that will always have that next custom home to go to. But with the industry changing the way it is, it's our recommendation, and I know it certainly applies to Steve and I, that we saw this shrinking industry and we wanted to diversify where we could stay in the industry. And if you see the same thing in your communities or where you go back and you build custom homes, especially in the custom home building industry, you need to think about diversification, because there will be a day when you will eventually witness a decline in your market.
Or in yourself.
That's right.
And as we become graybeards and that sort of thing, it's just one of those things we hope to be able to pass on. So we are here to be able to answer any questions. We left our phone numbers and email addresses up here. Feel free to come up and grab a card. If y'all have any questions y'all want to ask, feel free to stop us today, tomorrow, email us, whatever. One of the things we love about TAB is it's collaborative. We always come away from all of our TAB meetings knowing a whole lot more than what we brought to it. We receive a lot more than we give to it. We're glad to do that, but we always are becoming educated on these sort of things. So that's part of the fun part of being a home builder. It's a new experience every day, and we're always learning.
It is.
So any questions from the audience, feel free to come up afterwards. We'll let y'all enjoy your day. We thank you all for giving us part of it.